Hi guys, this is the homework for today, the 8.6 worksheet for day 2. And so we are going to factor each expression completely. So when we're doing this, just like we learned in class, when we're factoring trinomials, we're always going to end up with a binomial. So I'm just going to go ahead and set my parentheses up because that's the first thing that I like to do. The next thing I like to look at is my variable that's in front. We know that to get t squared, we have to have t times t. So that means that I have to have a t in both sets of my binomial. So in each binomial has to have a t. The next thing I need to look at is what's right here. So the term or the sign in front of my third term, in front of my c, that is going to determine what signs need to go inside my binomials. So if my c is positive, then I'm going to either have, I have to have two of the same signs. So if my c is positive, then I'm going to have either two positives or two negatives, because that's the only way to get a positive number there. But if my c is negative, like in this case where I have a negative 10, that means I have to have a negative in one and a positive in the other. So that gives me my automatic, I know for a fact that I have to have 1 plus, 1 minus. Now the next thing we need to figure out is which factors of 10 are going to either add or subtract to 3. So when I think about that, I know I have 1 and 10 for factors. I also know that I have 2 and 5, and that's it. So when I think about adding or subtracting these, I know that 2 and 5 are the numbers that I need to go with. So to start with that, to know which one needs to go in which place, there's an easy rule for that. And that's where we're going to look right here. We're going to look at that sign in front of our b. So it is a plus. If it is a plus, that means the plus needs the bigger number. If this were a negative, that means the negative would get the bigger number. So when we look at 2 and 5, we know that 5 is bigger than 2, so 5 is going to go to wherever this sign is at. So my 5 is going to go with my plus. And then that means the only other option for my 2 is going to be right here. And we can check ourselves, and we can go back here and multiply this out. I'm just going to do the area model. So I have t minus 2, so t and negative 2, and t and 5. And so when I work that out, I know I have t and t, which is going to give me t squared, negative 2t, 5t, and then this is going to be negative 10. So when I do this, I'm going to end up with t squared, check. 5t minus 2t is going to be 3t, got that, and negative 10. It matches. So that I know that I have the correct answer right there. Looking at number 2, I'm going to follow those same steps. So my first thing is I'm going to set up my parentheses for my binomial. My first variable is a t squared, so I'm going to again put my t in both places. I'm going to again look at my sign in front of my c, so that third term, and it's a negative, so because that's negative, I know I'm going to have a positive and a negative for my binomials. Now I need to look at what I need to have for factors. So for 21, I know I have 1 and 21, and I have 3 and 7. So I need to figure out which combination of these could get me 4. Well, 7 minus 3 is going to give me 4. So I know that these are the two that I need to use. So now, again, looking at the sign in front of my second term, it's a positive. That tells me that my greatest factor, which happens to be the 7, is going to go where the positive is. So this is going to be t plus 7, t minus 3. And again, we can multiply this out, and it's going to come back to this. All right, looking at number 3, same kind of steps. So I'm going to go ahead and set up those parentheses. I have t squared again, so I can keep t. Again, I have a negative in front of my last term, so since that's negative, I'm going to do a plus and a minus. Now I need to figure out my terms for 6. So I have, or my factors of 6. So I have 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. So for this one, I know that I need to get to a 5. Well, I can add these, but because one is positive, one's negative, there's no way that I can add these with a negative in there to get to 5. So it must mean that I need to use the 1 and 6. So again, I'm going to look here at my second term. I have a positive, which means that my bigger factor, the 6, needs to go here. So I'm going to make this the 6 and this the 1, and then I'm finished. All right, looking at number 4. So go on and set this up again. So I'm going to use my t's. And then I have a negative, so because I have a negative, I know I have to have a positive and a negative for my signs. And so now I need to figure out what my factors are going to be. So I have a 1 and a 20. I have 2 and 10, 4 and 5. All right, so now I need to get to a negative 8. So I'm going to see what can I do here. I know that 1 and 20, there's no way I can get to 8 with 1 and 20. 4 and 5, I can't get to 8 because that's going to give me a 9 if I add them or a 1 if I subtract. But the 2 and 10, if I add them as 12, but if I subtract, I have 8. So that works for that. So I know I'm going to be using these two factors. Now to determine their placement, I'm going to look at the sign in front of that 8. It's negative, so that tells me that my bigger factor needs to go on the negative. So my bigger factor here is at 10, so I'm going to have minus 10 and a plus 2. All right, looking at our next one. Again, I'm going to set up these parentheses. So I have my t's. I have a negative, so I'm going to make it a negative and a negative. And so let's see what my factors are. I know 1 and 72, 2 and 36, 3 and, let's see here, that's going to be 2 and 4, so that's a 24. 4 goes into it. That's going to give me a 1 and 3. 5 does not. 6 does. So that's going to be 12. And 7 does not. 8 does, though. 8 and 9. And I'm done on factors. All right. So, and some of you noticed this in class with what we did in class today. There's no number here. And some of you, that threw you. But the number that is in front of there, whether we can see it or not, there is a 1 in front of that t. So we actually have a negative 1 there. So now I need to look at all of my factors and figure out how I can get to a 1, either by adding or subtracting. So 1 and 72 can't get to 1, so those are not an option. 2 and 36 can't get to 1. 3 and 24 can't get to 1. 4 and 13 can't get to 1. 6 and 12 can't get to 1. It means 8 and 9 are my option. So now, oh, and I messed up here. I need to have 1 plus and 1 negative because of that negative sign. I almost missed that. So now, because this is a negative, that means that the negative needs to be my greater factor. So when I'm looking at these, the 9 is greater. So the 9 is going to go here, and the 8 is going to go there. All right, moving on to number 6. And we have x's for our variables. Again, we have a negative, so because it's negative, I'm going to have 1 plus, 1 negative. And then we got to look at our factors. I have 1 and 18, I have 2 and 9, 3 and 6, and I think that's it. And I have to get to a 3. So I can't add or subtract these to get to 3, so that's out. I can't add or subtract these to get to 3. So that leaves me with 3 and 6. So now I know by looking at my sign in front of that second term, it's a positive, that the bigger number of these two needs to go with the positive. So that's going to be my 6, which makes this my 3. All right, looking at number 7. So with this, setting it up again, I have x squared, but we also have a y squared in this. And so that's something new. We haven't seen that yet. So let's go ahead and work through this. Let's go ahead and start with our x squared. I know I'm going to have x squareds, or my x's in each one. We're also going to still follow the same rule with this negative. Because it's negative, that means I'm going to have 1 of each sign. And then let's figure out, let's ignore the y for the time being, and let's just look at the numbers. So I have 15, and I have to get to a 2. So I know I'm going to have 1 and 15, and 3 and 5. So out of these, can I get to a 2 with any of them? I can get to 2 with 3 and 5. So now what we need to do with this is look at our sign for our second term. It's positive, so that means our 5 needs to be the positive, and our 3 is going to be negative. But I still have this y squared. So when this happens and we see something squared on our third term, it just gets split up like our x's and it tags along. Now this one I'm going to do the area model as well, just to kind of show you how this breaks down. So if I do this, I have x and I have negative 3y, and then x and 5y. So now when I do this, x times x is going to give me x squared. This is going to give me negative 3xy. I'm going to have 5xy when I multiply x and 5y. And then when I multiply these, I'm going to have negative 15y squared. So now if I check myself, x squared, yep, I got that. 5xy minus 3xy, those are like terms, so I can do that. So 5 minus 3 is 2. Oh, yeah, I got that. And then negative 15y squared, right there. Number 8 is very similar to that, just different numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and set that up. So I know I'm going to have my x here. It's a negative, so I'm going to have a positive and a negative. When I go through and find my factors of 50, I'm going to have 1 and 50, 2 and 25, and 5 and 10. And is there anything else? I don't believe so. All right, so now I have to get to a 5. 1 and 50 won't get to a 5. 2 and 25 won't get to 5, so that means 5 and 10. So this is negative. Because that's negative, my greater factor needs to be the negative, which happens to be the 10 in this case. So I'm going to put 10 here, and my smaller one is going to go here. And then, because I still have that y squared, I'm going to split it on each one. All right, let's take a look at the back side. Same type of problems here, but just one. Well, this one's got 2 variables, and so does this one. So let's keep going here. So x and y squared. So I have an x and an x. We're still talking negative, so I'm going to have one negative, one positive. When I look at my factors of 36, I have 1 and 36. I have 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, and then 6 and 6. So I'm trying to get to 9. So when I look at these the number combinations, either adding or subtracting, 1 and 36 won't work, 2 and 18 won't work, 3 and 12, those will work, but not going to work, not going to work. All right, so 3 and 12, I'm negative on my second term, so since I'm negative there, that's where my greater factor goes. So it's going to be minus 12 and then plus 3, and I still have these y's that I need to take care of, so I'm going to add my y's on both. All right, looking at number 10, so I am going to split these again. I know I'm going to have an x in each. We know all of these so far have been all negatives, so I know I'm with a negative on that last term, I'm going to have a negative and a positive, and then I need to figure out my factors. Well, I've already got the factors of 36 over here. I'm just going to peek over here and see what I can use. In this case, because I need to get to 5, I can use the 9 and 4. So the 5 here is positive, which means my greater factor needs to be positive. Well, the greater number out of 9 and 4 is the 9, so that's going to be my plus, and that makes my minus the 4, and then split my y's. So y and y. All right, looking at number 11, I'm going to go on and split this. Again, we only have one variable here, so this is very simple. Split my n's. I'm going to have n and n. Everything's positive here, so because everything's positive, I know I'm going to have all positives. Now, if this had been positive and this had been negative, that's where we might have to have double negatives. That's a way of knowing if you're going to have double negatives. So now factors of 5, the only options we have are 1 and 5, so I'm going to go ahead and just put those in. All right, and our last problem here for today, I'm going to have number 12. So our n's are going to get split. Again, they're both positive. So since they're both positive, I'm going to do a positive on both sides. Factors of 10, we've got 1 and 10, 2 and 5, and that's it. And so we need to get to 7. Well, 2 and 5 will get me there, so I can just drop those in. And that, my friends, is our homework for today. So again, if you have any questions, please let us know. You can send us an email or you can talk to us in